It's the 30-30 list on the ASX. We're looking at the 30 top momentum companies on the ASX. They're the best charts, the best performers. And we want to see if we can find the companies before they break out and become those momentum leaders, because most of them show up in the launchpad. Gary Glover goes through both lists of 30 each and finds the best charts, things for us to learn from, and setups for us to study. He gets that list on a Thursday, at the same time the members do. And the members have also sent through some requests of some charts to do, which are quite often the same ones that Gary's looking at anyway. So hats off to the members. Thanks for support. And clearly we're on the same page. And today we're going to do something a little bit extra right at the end. We've asked our members, we're adding another layer of membership into YouTube, and we've asked them, what is it that they want to know most about? They've told us what we call the momentum profile. They want to know how today's top 30 momentum companies compare to last week, last month, or last quarter. They want to know how it sits in comparison to other observations that we've had. And we'll do that right at the very end. For me, I look at it and say, is it a time to go surfing or cycling, or should I actually cancel my dentist appointment and trade? That's another time. Right at the end. First off, we've got the top 30 momentum lists for today. Gary Glover's been through the list. He's got JBY on screen for us, but we say good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, Chris.
Great cracking chart. You've got the explosive, huge movement. I want to guess a game changer and possibly a high tight flag candidate.
Yeah, so that's like a IPO Trade too. So it's sort of one that's only been around for a while. We did speak about it last week there. So I think it's number 4 there on the quarterly momentum. So it's still pretty firm here. But what's a good sign is it's sort of started to see it sort of tightening up here now. So if we can see this hang around here for a while, tighten up for a while, that'll be a pretty good sign there.
Nice. So I'll watch that one. And I'll take it that one was pretty high up in the momentum list. There are other ones in the momentum list that have caught your eye?
Yeah, so there was POL, the next one there was energy as well. So again, it's had a pretty strong run there. So some pretty good volume there as well, there, Chris. So pretty chunky volume there. So I think we spoke about this a while ago. There was a bit of a cup and handle in this sort of, under this 45-cent mark there. Got a little bit of tight congestion there. Bit of a light. I think it might have been one day of selling there and then lightened up and then went through there. So it's not a bad little signal there. Has obviously run on there. The volume's still pretty strong there. So just got to see how that goes. LIV I thought was interesting there. Just this is sort of one that did have the big 400% move, tightened up here, nice AVC, then a little congestion with VCP, and then a bit of a breakout there. So it is sort of interesting there. So some people might wonder, okay, so we've had this pretty strong move here, had this little high tight flag you might call as well. It has stayed pretty tight after that pretty strong move there, and you do your little B wave or VCP sort of load sheet there. Lots of different names here, but it is pretty constructive there. But I think one of the best methods to sort of look at there is an old method, is the Elliott wave as well. So if this has had an impulsive move here, we're going to get another impulsive move. We probably want to see like a 5 wave sort of form here as at least. So I know as momentum traders there, we're going to probably use our 10 day end moving average and maybe our 20 as well. So this thing's obviously pretty vertical here. So momentum traders should be using that 10 as a stop here. But, if we're looking to sort of trade some into heat or looking for a possible sort of target or possible sort of setup, the Elliott wave is always a good one there, because obviously you're looking at you're looking for like a 5 wave sort of form there. Sometimes they can extend to 7 waves as well. So just by learning a technique, but you can sort of see here, there's a little 1, 2 in here. So sort of, you might say this is a little 3, 4, but normally the 3rd wave is kind of the extended wave. Then you get a bit of a pullback here, and then go to the 5th wave. So you're probably looking for at least that sort of 5 wave form as a sort of minimum there. So if you did see, for me personally, if I sort of saw that 5 wave extension there, probably be wanting to sort of sell some of it, take some heat off in there. So it's a good lesson to sort of learn that Elliott wave as well, because it just might help with just identify sort of the waveform for this sort of strong stock. So just sort of touch on that. It's just something to have a look at there. for those who haven't ever looked at Elliott Wave, it's probably, you can take it down a rabbit hole, but just looking at the form, the two things about it is the 5-wave sort of structure, impulsive, the strong waves, and then the 3-wave pullback. If you learn those two things there, I think the rest you can probably not discard it, but those are the probably two most important things you can sort of pick out of it really. Next was
Is that in your own trading when you're looking at it? There's definitely
I do. I mean, like the safest way to enter a sort of stock is to if it's had a pretty strong run, is to look for that ABC pullback, the 3-wave pullback. Those strongest names too, having what they call the undercut too. So if you do get a bit of a square type of correction, sort of goes up positively, then it sort of goes sideways. You get that small undercut there, that can be a really good entry. So it's like a bit of a false break, but in the top half, a strong word there. So that's, you often get to see it too. You'll see the strong names will have a little bit of a 3-wave cool off, and then they can go again as well. So they're just useful things to sort of pick up when you're trading as well. TLG was number 17 there. Just thought, look, you just got to keep an eye on this one here. Could be an EP, could be an episodic pivot, game changer trade as well. So definitely jumped up here. Big gap up, big volume as well. Pretty much opened at the low and went up there. So definitely fulfilled a lot of the EP stats there. So this could continue to climb here. So bit of a smaller name, but has done that game changer sort of EP there. So I've been learning a little bit about the EPs there lately. So one of the little tidbits there was I think it's, if they're above sort of 7%, like not normally they're good sort of gaps, the episodic pivots are around about up more than 7%, and but as long as they're sort of between 7 and 14, they generally sort of have a reasonably high success. Anything over 14% on the gap up there can be troublesome. So most of the ones that sort of pull back are over 14%, so they open up maybe too aggressively. So this might have been over 14%, but it's still probably, it still kept going on just because it's probably smaller sort of name there.
You're talking about on the open, so if it gaps up from yesterday's close, 14.
Yeah, that's right. So you get that game changing news, and then it gaps up. If it gaps up more than 14%, that's got the highest failure rate, or actually sort of fading back and sort of filling back here. So that's sort of one thing you just got to keep an eye on there. But sometimes the smaller names can, that's pretty, it can still have pretty good volume there. Like you would have seen strong volume earlier there. It obviously probably ran up and then faded here, but it still looks all right here to me. Triple T was another one that's, I did speak about this last week. I just didn't like the volume so much. There was pretty light volume through here. It wasn't really good volume, but maybe that's a lesson for me just to see that this one has managed to sort of go back up and retest that. So it's had a fairly good move. Look, it's too small for me personally. Maybe that's why I'm probably less interested in there, but there's just really good volume on this drive here, good volume on this drive here, good volume on this drive here as well. Did pull up there. There's a little bit of selling in there, but we did see a little volume at the start here, but we just didn't see too much volume come in here. That volume sort of come in a bit late here. So let's see what happens here. Maybe this is set up a couple of handle here later on, but I wouldn't be chasing it here personally. But maybe just one to monitor moving forward there. LRL. Too small for me personally, but has had some pretty chunky volume in here. So again, probably just one worth sort of monitoring here. A1G was, I thought this one's pretty interesting, Chris, because it's had a pretty strong run up here. So it's a bit of a smaller name, but it has had a big gap up here and some pretty big volume through there. Now sort of done like an AB. There's that ABC pullback here. So that's that sort of Elliott wave there. But what I find most interesting here is the volume. So it's pulled back here, 1, 2, 3, 4 days. All those 4 days off here. Pretty light volume here so far. So I saw a little bit more volume come in and buy here. So just sort of one to sort of keep an eye on there. Just, again, just not, even though it's had a fair pop here, not a lot of selling, had that, maybe that 1 day of selling here and not much else has sort of followed here. So that's that's a good sign there. So AONG should be just one to sort of keep an eye on. OBN, thought I'd talk about this one just because this has been a leader for a long time, Chris. And look, it's something you're going to be sort of careful. Obviously, ones that I'm saying this is pretty extended here, but now, I mean, we've had what's this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 days above the 10-day moving average. That's fairly extended. So getting pretty vertical. I know the volume's pretty good there, but yeah, this is why sort of the pros will use that as, use the 10 and the 20-day moving average there. But that 10 is sort of, that's got to be respected here. But if it breaks that 10, like most momentum traders would, if they're trading this, they'll be using that as a stop here. So just got to be sort of tightened up here. Why I talk about that is that if I look at the number 29, say ASL, this is kind of a good example here. So this is sort of one that's been on the leader in the past as well, but still this sort of flying up here is probably not as aggressive as last chart, but we saw here once it broke the 10 after having a pretty strong move, had a fairly large correction. That has sort of started again, so even in here did break here by the 10 as well, and had a decent pullback as well. So just gives you some insight there. We're looking for sort of stocks that going up there, but there are certain practices that you got to put in place to protect your capital and your profits as well. So the pros sell some into heat. Usually use a stop. Kalamagi will use that 10 and 20. I think most of them use the 10 and 20 in some regard there. So yeah, just got to sort of have that in your arsenal there. You don't want to be sort of just holding. Like we know these leading names have big pullbacks when they cool off, so you don't want to be sort of sitting there having those big drawdowns. 28 was CY5 there. Just keep an eye on this one here. It's had a bit of a gap up, pretty strong move there. Has drifted back a little bit. Couple of selling days there, but not too much there. But probably, it's a big sort of gap here, so it makes it hard to trade there. But just sort of one to keep an eye on. The last one there, number 26 there, just too small for me personally, but we have seen some reasonable volume on this last lead up here, so pretty robust volume there. So just probably one to sort of keep an eye on.
And just the other ones on the momentum list that came in this request, we got the bookends first and last, so GLN at number 30, and so probably got to zoom in, but it's meaty volume down there. So.
Yeah. The problem you've got there is just you've just got so many losers in front of you there. So that's our daily. Let's look at our weekly. So it's just going to fight. You got to fight the tape here. You got so many, 220 down to 20. So anyone who's bought it for the last 3 years is a loser. Yeah. So you got 3 years of losers in front of you to get through to try and get a move. So look, you can go up here. And obviously, you can get reasonable percentage moves with these smaller names there. And you're right, there is pretty chunky volume there, so possible change of character. But it's going to be difficult. So yeah, but look, not what you want to sort of see there is they keep building on top of each other. Getting a sequence of higher lows there and holding those. So the volume drop. There's still a bit of selling there, but yeah, look, not the worst. And that does make it a little bit more interesting, no doubt about it. So when you see that sort of volume get involved there.
And that weekly chart that you just showed, that's going to come in interesting right at the end on the momentum profile, because that's kind of an exact example of one of the ones that we'll talk about. But still on the momentum, we skipped OVT. It's been in there for a while. Quite an explosive. That is difficult to trade. Low value, short little volumes going through.
Yeah.
Moves a lot. So if we...
Yeah, unlike a couple of others I sort of talked about there, see, we had chunkier volume there, Chris, as well. And then we've seen off here as well, we've seen pretty decent volume as well. So we have seen some reasonable, this is gapped up here pretty hard, but then it's also met with some pretty decent volume as well. So those sort of stronger names there that we go back and look at them, we can see that when they, they can have that, you normally get a bit of selling that sort of first day, but most of them don't tend to have that follow through in the selling. So the second and third days down there, you tend to sort of dry up quite a bit. They sort of stay sort of solid. That's kind of more solid volume in there. So
That's 5 days of reasonable volume, whereas often you'll see a leader, and in the model books, you've studied this,
yeah,
1 or 2 days with sort of a larger volume, but the other down days, even though the price might drop a fair bit, the amount of volume on those days is much.
I was trying to think of the one. What was the one I just showed before that had the no? Yeah. So so look at that. That's had a big move, but then it doesn't have big volume bars here as well. So, I mean, the leader there was that. It's just, I mean, I'm just guessing here, but you saw that, so it's had pretty strong move up here, and then what do we see there? No volume there. Had a bit of a rally here, pull back here, pretty light volume. So even in here, I mean, the only volume you saw is the day of the low. So you're just not seeing, their strongest names here. They have this sort of similar sort of setup. So that's why I think volume is really important. I know some people don't like to look at volume, they overlook it, but it's price and volume. That's all you need, and maybe moving. I mean, the moving averages are there just to help you get in and out. But really, the price and volume is really all you need to sort of look at to sort of study these charts.
Yes. And then the last one was INR, smack bang in the middle, 15th, rank number 15, INR. And that is ramping up a bit.
Yeah, it's had a good update there, so it's not too bad there.
Would you call that a cup and handle in that formation?
Look, it is sort of starting to get out of here, so there has been some pretty good volume there. Does worry me the volume is coming in a bit late here, but still, that's right. I mean, they can sort of start off like this. That's the thing. They can start off, the volume sort of can come out a little bit late there, but yeah, it's not bad. It's just probably too small for me personally, but yeah, I know a few guys who do like this stock here think there's a pretty good runway for growth there. So, but yeah, it's just probably too small for me, but. Yeah, at least she's had a good run here now. You're sort of starting to see a little bit of selling coming in, but you probably want to monitor it there and see it come back. On that weekly, Chris, what you'd like to do is maybe for the thing to sort of congest, maybe come back and sit on top of the old high, or just sit on top of this little high as well. But that's obviously the short-term high there, the old high in here. But just do something time-consuming, nice and tight. So something like this. This sort of little, sideways shimmy, no volume there. Something like that where you sort of just go sideways for 2 or 3 weeks. Doesn't sort of give up too much ground, and then away we go again. So that's what you'd like to see there if you're a holder.
Well, so we've looked at the top 30 momentum. Every single one of them is a good chart. Just breaking it down, the analysis, as you say, there's a lot of information in price and volume. But when you look at the two lists, momentum leaders, launchpad leaders, is anything coming out to you when you look through the names? Are there any themes that are standing out in this week's report?
Yeah, look, the only thing I did notice there was just maybe sort of something I was hoping to sort of see as well was that, I know like lithium's pretty suppressed there, but I just feel like you've seen a lot of lithium companies go into care and maintenance there. You've seen Rio make an acquisition as well. So started to see some of these shares actually hold up. They show a bit of relative strength. So I was hoping to see a few on the list. And I noticed there was a few on the list as well. So, I know Mineral Resources has jumped around quite a bit here recently, but I think PLS and LTR, just some of the lithium names held up pretty well there. So I was just sort of interested to see a few on there. I think PLL's on there. Just a few lithium names in there, which I thought was sort of interesting.
Well, we might find a couple with your list and maybe some suggested from members. When you look at this list in the Launchpad, what's the first one from a ranking order that stands out to you?
I covered that TLG, but I thought AXE was Archer Materials there. Just wanted to sort of keep an eye on there. Just, again, look, this has come back a fair amount, a bit deep here. So I was looking, you can sort of say there's a bit of losers there. But what we have started to see is a bit of volume come in there. So this has sort of climbed up in volume there, and that pullback there was pretty light. So there wasn't sort of selling sort of dried up here as well. So we've just seen a bit of a jump again. So look, I'm not sure this is the first lower high broken here. or maybe this is this, the second lower high, but we have sort of broken two sort of swing highs on the way down. So that's possible change of character as well. So this is one just to sort of keep an eye on there. I think it does have a few losers behind it there. So that's probably that's the big negative, is that you're fighting the tape. But the stock has showed a little bit of change of character there. Another one in that sort of rare metal sort of space there. FYR is in the graphite, so it's, again, sort of in that sort of same area. I just thought this was pretty interesting, because the stocks, again, has been fighting the tape here. It's had a lot of losers in front of it, but it has broken a swing high here. And then you sort of saw here, we saw a good volume out of that low. Pulled back there, probably a bit more volume than you'd like to see, but it just came back and sat on the 50 and popped again. But it's got a lot of headway, Chris. It's probably not the one that's jumping out at me. So we just thought it was interesting to sort of see it come back to the 50, find support there. But just seeing some of those names sort of show something here, which, with the lithium price on its knees as well, I think it's interesting sign as well. Just typically sort of seeing all those sort of things that you normally see at the bottom of cycles, but what that might mean is that they're probably going to do a bit of work. They might need to, build a bit of a base there. But DCC, I thought was interesting again. Just has pulled back a bit here, but again, we just started to break above, a couple of swing highs. So broken above two swing highs. So possible change of character. Did have some pretty good volume into this last high, but pulled back quite a bit here. Longer term picture there is kind of interesting there. I mean, it does have a few lows in place here, like a big, they could potentially say this is a big basing pattern here, low, high, low, maybe, big 0, 1, 2, 3. So that can potentially be a big base there. That wasn't a bad move there. So just wanted to sort of keep an eye on there, just because we are sort of seeing a bit of a change of character there. So maybe it's one that can sort of build. So to me, I just put it on my list to sort of go and read up on to see if there's in what's happening there. Brad Chip, I know a lot of people follow this one there. Look, had that impulsive move, a big pullback there. Had a bit of a nice rally here, some okay volume there. It is fighting the tape. If you look at the stock here, see we've got lots of losers in front of it here. So it's going to be hard going to sort of get ahead. We have seen names like Atta and stuff there fight the tape and make some headway. So it can happen there, but it's just, the odds are sort of stacked against it. But this one's, there's still some reasonable selling there, Chris, as well. So, it's had a bit of a, it's had a big decent move here, but then you're faced with a bit of a reasonable wall. Just because a lot of people ordered a lot higher. So any rallies there, there's going to be lots of people looking to sort of sell into that. So, keep an eye on it there, just because I know it's a bit of a popular stock here, but it's probably not one that I'll personally trade. GHY I thought was pretty interesting there. This is the gold hydrogen. They had this potential sort of game change and use out Elidate, Chris. If you read this, it sounded like the best thing in the world that ever happened to the stock. It was some of the comments were just were pretty hard there. I was talking to another trader about this and said, the last time I made comments that were like that, the stock went from being up 60% to only being up 50%. So maybe it makes those comments there and draws a bit of selling in as well. But it is a bit of a rare sort of metal, or is it helium sort of gas as well, I think it was. So it says, it's an interesting one here. But when I read it, I thought, wow, is this spibby or is this real? So when it sounds too good to be true, it
Often
can be. Yeah, you can see here it was met with some pretty decent selling as well. So, it probably was. So, GHY. I noticed Fast Brick was on the list there. Sort of, just got to keep an eye on this one here. It sort of had a pretty good move, good volume, pulled back. Had some okay volume again here. This was probably, we saw a bit of selling in the first leg down here. We've probably seen a bit less selling here on this next leg. So the whole thing's sort of tightening up a bit. So maybe we might get a VCP over time here. Probably too small for me, but, it's pretty interesting, the old robotic, building a house. So, some it's got some reasonable companies sitting behind that as well. So definitely one just to sort of keep an eye on there. It's a bit of a small mover, a bit of a slow mover with those 4 to 5 to 5.5 cents. It's just hard to trade that. It's not really. I like to. It's liquid because there's so many shares on issue, but each sort of tick there is a big percentage there. So you trade anything like that, you got to trade them small. SVM, I thought this was an interesting there. Just bit of a bit of a VCP in there, bit of a break. Has gone back to retest that high there. Been sort of reasonably healthy volume in there. So got to watch this for maybe for potential cup and handle set up the Chris well. So maybe if we sort of see this pull back here, maybe dry up for a while. Just wanted to keep an eye on that. It's just been building, definitely showed some pretty relative strength this year. So it's had a reasonable climb there. Literally gone from 40 cents to 80 cents there. So reasonable growth there. Just, what would be nice would be like a little 3-wave handle here and then start to come out of there. Just don't see it come back too far. Just see volume dry out. Use up a bit of time there. That's what you'd like to see there. MLX. This is showing relative strength as well, Chris. It's sort of pretty. The good thing about this is had a pretty impulsive move from around 25, 26 cents up to 50 cents, and it's sort of gone sideways for, it's had that little ABC and ended up probably having that E wave down, but then it sort of started to build here. Now above the 50. Look, it's not moving that particularly fast and stuff there, but the fact that it's showing up, definitely showing a bit of strength there is a good sign there. So you just want to sort of keep an eye on that. BRE, one to watch here. Again, just had that relative strength, sort of pull back here in 3 ways and just sort of starting to build here again. So, it breaks above this little B wave high here. It's just, could be potential change in character there. So, this is sort of the IPO there, had a pretty strong move, bit of a pullback, could build again. So, should be on our list to sort of monitor. PWL. Look, just another lithium name showing a bit of strength here, Chris. So had a bit of a rally, it's pulled back. It's gone again, staying nice and tight here. I know it's a small name here, but it is showing a bit of strength there. What have we got there? GQG. Strong trend here, but it's pretty much gone sideways. So since July here, so for the last 3 or 4 months there, like it might feel back here, but it's just got to go on our list there because it is sort of showing relative strength. So we do have 2 lower highs in place here, and actually a 3rd lower high now. So that's like the reverse of our 0, 1, 2, 3 pattern. That potential could be a basing for a top as well. But see what happens here. I think it'll probably drift back here. As long as it's not aggressive there and sort of still holds up there. It's just probably one to sort of keep on our list there for, just because it has been showing some, pretty decent strength so far. What have we got there? ART, just got this to sort of keep an eye on there. Bit of a VCP, the whole thing sort of tightening up. That's sort of air tasker. Again, a bit hard to trade there being a 30-cent stock. Triple T. Mentioned this one before, it's sort of gone up here, just a bit of volume there. Hopefully, maybe we get a cup and handle in here underneath the old high. Just got to keep an eye on that. CKA, I think that was the last one there. Pretty messy there. Other stocks to keep an eye on there. I thought this is sort of one that I've been watching for quite a while. Just I know a few analysts sort of like this stock here, but there's a VCP on the daily here. There's actually a big VCP on the weekly as well, Chris. So it stayed, it's had an impulsive move, pull back, rally again, tightened there. So look how, when this has sort of gone, when it's gone down here, but that's corrective, that's just overlapping as well. So this is sort of one that I'm sort of watching here for a longer term move here. So it hasn't, I've watched it for months and months, but it's just made lower high, lower high, lower high. So I'm just waiting for a change of character for that one. But I think what's interesting, Bio was sort of one on the list that was on the last couple of weeks here. That's firmed up here. Some good volume here in the last sort of week or two as well. So stock showing relative strength, but it's had pretty good volume on the way up as well. So that's nothing wrong with that. Looks pretty decent. DXB was sort of one that I sort of did sort of break it. Has been a bit of a leader in the past there. It is a bit of a biotech, so it does sort of come with some risk, but pretty light volume here so far. So I just sort of wanted to sort of keep an eye on there. Has had that big pullback, ABC did undercut again as well. Starting to build a little bit there. Volume okay. Lighter on the pullback there, but it is in the riskier segment. I thought MTO looked pretty interesting. I mean, that's the motorcycle. So it's had a nice little move here, pulled back and then gone again. And look how tight this is there. That's just stayed really super tight here. And very, very, the volume's so light. There's just no volume in here as well. So this sort of come on the back of a pretty good result there. So earnings have improved there. I think most of the broker targets are a little bit high, not super high, but modestly high there. But that's just really, really tight price action. Kind of reminds me of Iris. Remember when
where our bikes were getting.
Yeah. See how tight it sort of stayed in here as well for quite a while. The other one really interesting here is SKS. Where this stock's been running. It looks like it's sort of cooled off. It had overbalance of the trend there, but it's come back here, and the whole thing's just tightened up here. And how many days in here? The whole thing is just tightened up. The range is just tightened up here as well here. So there was a decent line there. About 1.6 million shares went through or something there. Trying to work out whether it was one of the founders or not, but it was only about 10% of one of the founders, which is nothing. But it might have been a fund, one fund getting out, one fund getting in. But it was done at 143, so it was done at the price. It wasn't done at a discount or premium, so it was sort of done at market. So, but yeah, that was pretty interesting. That's what stock showing relative strength. I think most of the broker targets are, I think most of $180 to $2 for SKS, so yeah, pretty buoyant there. But yeah, that's pretty good. That stock was just showed real super tightness there, tight range. Yeah,
some days where it barely looks like it trades.
Yeah, it's so tight in here. So yeah, but yeah, that looks pretty good. So yeah, I can tell you that it's been hard to buy this morning. That's all I'll say.
Well, it's a good thing this video doesn't go live into public until after market. The members get it earlier, so it might be competing with you later today. Just the last one on the request was literally the last one on the list, MAC. So that was one requested on the launch pad.
Yeah, good rally out of that low. Pulled back, come back to the 50, holding the 50 so far. A bit more volume in there than maybe you'd like to sort of see. There's some heavy volume in there, but did see some good volume there. Again, it's pulled back here so far. So
does it fit into any of those IPO standard setups that you've seen, or there's not quite yet?
Yeah, look, it's look, if you've had that early run, then it's undercut the low. So that, which is, we know, like a lot of these IPOs, I think it's only 85%. That's only end up undercutting the or the maybe the opening lines off there. That's happened there. But this is a really impulsive move here, so that's a good sign. Broken above the swing high is a good sign. But you will get a pullback there. It's just pretty erratic, isn't it? It's pretty loose. So Kalamagi likes them nice and tight, like the last chart we were showing. Not loose like this. So yeah. Hey, I did see something really interesting. I was listening to must have been the Wall Street Coach, and they're talking about trauma. Now, animals don't carry trauma around, which I didn't know. So supposedly, like if a zebra or a gazelle's chased by a lion and almost gets eaten, loses its life, it's a pretty traumatic experience for the animal. But the animals will before they they'll literally after if they survive and go through this traumatic event, they'll often go in the bush somewhere on their own and kind of like kind kind of shake it off, but bit of tremble, basically deal with the trawler, so whether that's 15 minutes or an hour on their own, but the animals will literally deal with that trauma, and then they'll go back to the herd like it never happened. That's the way the animals actually deal with it. So I didn't realize that. I did know this about animals, but I thought it was quite interesting there, sort of, because, humans are very different. We carry our trauma around, and it holds us back. We hang on to that. You might try and suppress it with alcohol or something else, but we often don't deal with our trauma and carry it around for quite a while. And if you think about turtle, think about sort of trading as well. If you have a sort of string of losers and winners, we carry that around as well. So if we win, we have a nice sort of a good string of winners. Then we get a bit overconfident bias as well, and then we sort of relax our sort of risk management and get away from our process there. And if you just need to look at, if you've read Richard Dennis and Turtle Trading, you see that all those traders were taught exactly the same rules, the same process, and same markets here. Yet they all had varying results. And so even though they were taught exactly the same thing there, and that's really, just comes around sort of the fear, greed, emotions there, and how we bet, what happened on the previous trade will affect our next trade. So we carry a lot of that trauma around, so good trauma, bad trauma as well. Whereas a good trader will probably not carry that around. We'll just carry that forward. I was talking to a trader this week, and I hope he doesn't mind me sort of saying this there, but I was kind of impressed with a couple of things he sort of said to me. Is that he actually had 10 losers in a row, which that can be crushing for a lot of people there. But his returns, his returns are about double mine at the moment, so he's going very well. Obviously controlling the risk there, but having 10 losses in a row, that means you've really got to have some sort of steel to your process, and you got to have a backbone to what you're trying to do, and you're following a certain, you might sort of scale back in size and stuff there, but I think that just shows pretty strong resilience actually to go through that. But that's as a good trader that we got to do that there. So I just thought it was pretty interesting sort of talking about trauma animals there, sort of maybe to sort of think, maybe we've got to be a little bit more like the Giselle. Every time we have a bad trade, just shake it off, and go back and just follow the same process. So I thought it was a nice little tidbit.
No, that is. That's really interesting, because it's obviously we do treat our trauma differently, and it does impact our trading. And I know you and I talk about it normally before we record, just how our week's on and what's happening. And we definitely do carry it on, which is probably an opportunity to segue into the next section when we're talking about, well, how is my performance now? Is it a good momentum market? Is it a bad momentum market? How do I rate this market in comparison to previous observations? And if Gary stops sharing the screen, I'll load up a screen that's hopefully describes exactly what we're talking about. That's what we've created the data for. And here it is. I've just loaded the page, and I'll get the screen share going.
Don't want to steal your thunder there, but did you say during the week this is one of the highest momentum scores that you've seen for a long, long time? Was that did I get that?
Yeah, exactly.
Did I say that correctly?
That is in here. It was one of the days earlier, because Gary and I have been talking about these intra-week, I should say. But exactly that. So within the last 3 months of observations, we were sitting relatively high, and the market had fallen. And I think it was, Gary might remember earlier, because I've been spending a lot of time on this. But was it when the market first had that big hit, Gary, and I was sending you saying this is ridiculously high comparison to the last couple of months?
Yeah, I think you're sort of talking about the scores there across the leaders there. And I was sort of trying to pinpoint, is that the highest score ever, or is that, how long since we've seen a score this high? Those are questions I was sort of was asking, I guess, of you. Because obviously these are like, it's like, John Boyd's got the new highs, new lows list there. So you sort of start to see so many new highs getting made, it's like the might be 2,000 or something there. And so you start to get those sort of record numbers there. That's when telling you the market's getting a little frothy. So that's probably when, we're going to tighten up a little bit. So you got to make sure, that's when you got to sort of really sort of make sure you're taking only A-class trades. You might even sort of scale back this size a little bit. I definitely have been scaling back my size trades lately, just sort of feeling like, and I'm also sort of coming into the back of my mind, I know how the usual sort of pattern around a US election press is to weaken off into that election day. And then, because all the uncertainty around it, and then markets tend to sort of come out there. And if you remember, I can go back, I noticed Coppo put the last 4 elections out there a couple of days ago. I think our market was off 200 points on November 7 when Trump got in, and then rallied, I don't know, it didn't go that high, but it rallied pretty strongly, but the market ripped after that. So you can get a bit of weakness in those events here. But yeah.
Well, that's exactly sort of wondering, is it a good environment? Should I be paring back my trades? Should I tighten my stops? Should I actually shorten my profit targets? And they're all the questions that we're consistently thinking. And this initial thought really came back from reading one of Jesse Livermore books. He didn't write it, but it was written about him. And he used to go fishing on his Neta Venetian, which he had 3 of those massive fishing boats. And he'd say, well, the market's rubbish, so I'm just going to go fishing. And then he'd keep looking at the tape and keep checking in at the broker offices. And suddenly he'd read it and he'd just leave the boat, fly back or get back to New York and start trading again. And that's kind of the barometer that we were looking for at the same time as what Gary's just said. What are the conditions like? So here's a screenshot of what we sent to members at the same time. So Gary gets this list, members get it at the same time, and that's where the questions have come from. So what we're really looking at is this green column here. So we can see on today's scale, that darker green is the highest momentum score. And then we go from 0.69 all the way down to 0.29. And they're today's observations. And I'll zoom in, not to spoil the surprise, but this is what we're looking at on the reference side of things. We've looked at a very bullish time in the market. So just on the dates here, we're all going to remember the March COVID lows. We went into lockdown and the markets roared after that massive drop. So that's COVID. It's not news to anyone. But then we looked at the high that came after that rally. So we're going from March 2020 all the way through. So like 18 months, good solid rally. And this is the orange triangle. So we just take note of that. That's the market high. I would have thought, and Gary, you probably would have thought as well, momentum would have been really strong at that period because he just had 18 months of gains. And then another key point that we looked at was when Gary, and if you've been watching the channel for a long time, back in October 2022, Gary called this low, called it exceptionally well, and then traded it really well. I would have thought momentum was terrible then. And then I've cherry-picked some other dates here as well. After a recent rally, I thought that would have been strong purple and blue. The colours represent the dates that we took these same calculations, looked at the top 30 momentum companies and looked at their momentum scores, this green number. And then we plot that on the chart here. And that's what we come over. Now, this chart, I'll just zoom out for a second. Gary's seen it a few times before. But what we have is the momentum score times 100, just because it's easier to get more data with decimals. So here's today. Rank number 1 is the green line, and today's top score is 69.23. And then as we go over to the right, the ranks come down. Rank 10, 15, and then as you can see down the bottom here, rank number 30 is at the lowest. So this green line is today's observations, what we've just discussed. Gary's pulled out the best charts, and that's what we've looked at. Now, remembering the market rally, this was after the COVID rally. This orange day here, we'd expect to see really strong momentum in the market because this is the ASX 200 and that represents the market, supposedly. But you can see here that today's momentum is a better observation than the peak of the market for the top 200. So I don't know, is that a surprise for you, Gary, to see that today's observations are actually stronger than what we saw 3 years ago when the market peaked?
Yeah, well, I was curious to sort of see how this might work, but I guess you're sort of going to think about it too as like, the whole rationale around markets is that, as you do get to market peaks there, then you should have breadth issues. So there should be fewer and fewer stocks going to new highs. So you probably shouldn't have high momentum scores there either. Should start to see some of them breaking down as well. But yeah, it's just interesting to sort of see what we can learn there, because obviously you get different indicators. I've seen different people build different indicators, but it does give them some lead in as well. So I mean, you've probably got a better lead in. You've been studying this in some detail there, so it does give you a real lead in.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. We've got breadth issues here at the top of that orange arrow, and that's represented here with the orange line. We had another high here, the dark blue, which was after sort of that rally. Hopefully the mouse cursor is coming up, sort of May 22 to what date did the blue end up being? 13th of August. And that's just a pretty ordinary day. As we see, they're actually average days on the market tops. And the blue line here, the light blue, which is where Gary called the market lows, that was actually one of the worst observations that we have seen from the top 30 momentum. It was horrendous. There was not much to trade on the momentum side of things. But these 2 days here are only 4 days apart. As you can see, 10th of March 22 and 14th of March 22. We've got scores of 122. And then if you come down to sort of like 5th place, we're still or 3rd place is 120. And that, compared to the market tops, the orange line and the blue line, it's about 3-4 times stronger momentum companies than what we had at the market tops. And these days here I found super interesting. And Gary talked about, I think it was GLN earlier in the top 30 momentum. And he said, look, it's got a lot of headway. It's a lot of losers ahead of it. What we had here in this pink line was that day we'd actually had most of the top 30 momentum had a lot of coal companies in it. And the coal companies just went absolutely ballistic on this pink day here. So from a momentum trader's perspective, the market was coming down near its lows for the index, the ASX 200. But momentum traders had phenomenal opportunities. Buy it with your ears pinned back, buy the breakouts. They're running strong. Look at the profit targets, but probably don't have them in there. Manage the trade throughout and take the breakout opportunities. And that's what we were learning from it. So these outlying observations, they're very rare, but they do tell us that the market can get really good and frothy. And this is when momentum traders are absolutely shooting the lights out and having their best years possible. And I'm going to hazard a guess, Gary, and say that time when you had your best 6 weeks, it was probably in this period here where momentum was soaring. So
I'd have to go back and check, but yeah.
I've looked at mine and go, wow, they're the breakout opportunities. That's when it's best. So just the final thing I'll add, I won't get too deep into it, but this is what we're looking to add as the next level of membership access to this sort of data, is if we imagine today the green line, if we get to draw this chart and put it on a piece of paper on the desk here, and then get a bit of blue tack and roll it into a bit of a snake, and then plot this green line on the piece of paper on the desk, and then plot it for the other observations that we've got here, a pink line, a purple line, blue, orange, and so on. If we then continue adding an extra rolled up bit of blue tack on the chart every day of observations, we then end up with some really good data into understanding how today compares. And this is what we were talking about earlier, to the last 90 days. So for anyone who didn't like maths, this might be a panic station, but I'll tell the critical number to look at is this is what Gary was talking about before. So it was a couple of days ago we looked at it, but this purple number, that observation was better than, I think it was 91 or 92% of observations we've had since August. So the average of the momentum profile, that green dotted line we just looked at for that day, was better than 90% of the last 3 months. And this,
with that, sorry, just to, so it's with that last sort of chart there, Chris, you've got all these different periods and all news and stuff there, so they all vary quite wildly. So it makes it sort of hard to sort of gauge them all individually, but what you're trying to say here is you're actually better off guiding against the current market and stuff as well. So, like a stock's got its own personality. Each market's got its own personality momentum-wise as well. So you're basically looking at how it's, how it travels in terms of its most recent trading, what that, what reflects there. So, so obviously that's a pretty high score for how long? So since the last
August, start of August is when this data snapshot.
Yeah. So it's giving you a really high score over a 3-month period at least, isn't it? So So it's more sort of against, and which I guess is like measuring a stock against itself rather than measuring against a previous big winner, which is kind of makes sort of sense there. But yeah, so you're saying there that for the last 3 months there, you haven't had momentum. Only have momentum scores 13% higher.
Yeah. So on average, if we look at that whole 30, yes, there's only been 13% that have had 30. And I wasn't going to do this because I haven't fully got the data, as much data as I want to have, but this one was interesting. If I pull it down to the top 5, I think it is, there's top 7, they're really carrying a lot of the heavy weight. A lot of the heavy load is the top couple. So they're the top with the 5.
Yeah.
We've only seen 9% of observations being the first 5 break momentum companies have been better than what they are today. And we've just looked at that chart. You've just analysed those charts. So we get an understanding of how it sits, and then, well, is it the last 3 months or is it the last month? And so it does change exactly what you're saying. So I know that when I look at this broader picture and look at it in comparison to the chart that we looked at before, this one here, I know sitting it in here, there are going to be some good trades, but we're not going to have those same COVID rally type things where, if you remember, there were a lot of retail traders, a huge amount of, and we can tell from this channel, the amount of people that were watching the top 6 videos we were doing at the time. There was so much opportunity there because the breakouts would be followed and followed and followed and followed. And it's momentum traders. That was magical for us. But when we're sitting in these averages here, I've still got to have the same sort of pretty tight criteria and tight risk management, all the things that you talk about all the time. It's just very rarely, if we get to these outlier opportunities, I'm probably not going to put my profit target in there. I'm actually going to let it follow it and then do like you say, a 2-day swing low type stop for a trail, because that's when we get those extended runs. And that's what this green dotted line is telling me each day when I'm looking at the trades. How does today's observations compare, or the weekly 30-30 list, to what we're seeing? And just exactly what you said. Right now, it's actually better than it has been for about 90% of the last 3 months. So I know I can talk about data and statistics for a long time.
Yeah. Well, basically just giving us a bit of a warning there that we've been running up for a long, long time here now, and so it is getting extended for this current market anyway. I guess it is getting extended here, I guess. So yeah.
Strong momentum, and maybe we do have a change. Like you said, lithium's coming up, and if we do see that launchpad move and greater breadth, and then new leaders come through, like you talk about on the Tuesday videos, maybe. But as you talked about on the orange one, if we've got narrowed breadths and then we're back into these averages, well, that can actually be when the market turns back down. Anyway, we'll share more of this with the next layer once we can sort of share it more easily and publicly with members. But I think Gary's worked with me on this and given me a lot of feedback and questioning. But there we go. That's what we're looking at in relative movements for how this green column here, the momentum scores of today, how they compare to observations of the last 3 years or 3 months.
Yeah, I think like the other thing there is like the sector analysis, Chris, as well. I mean, if we, I know I'm not going to try it, but look, if we all know Stan Weinstein's sort of work, and the gains there, we got the 2 same charts across 2 different sectors, and one's in a weak sector, the other one's in a strong sector. The returns are more than double in the strong sector. So trading in the right sectors, is really, really important. That's definitely the one thing I can attest to here over the recent years. I definitely am staying. I often will see a VCP or some sort of setup in a sector, and I like the company, but I go and look at the sector and everything and welting down that sector. I think, I shouldn't be trading this. And sure enough, that stock will break down. But then, you sort of see when the sector lights up and all of a sudden that sector is showing some real strength, then we know that sister coming to come through there. I mean, that's, do you want to show that in a bit more depth moving forward? That's the money shot for me personally. That's what you want to sort of see, because then that's sort of, again, Westwood, I know sort of Minabini works on individual companies showing relative trend first, and then he looks at the sector second, and then the market third. But I think that that sector and stock, you get that lined up together. I think that's going to be, that might get 75-80% of your winners. There'll be obviously 20% outside of that, but I think that's the one that I find most interesting, is sort of make sure that I'm playing in the right, in the right sectors there. So I think that's really important.
Well, occasionally we do produce a report. It takes a lot of time to get that report. Occasionally we send that to Gary, which is the 6 of 6 he's talked about before. But it does feed into this, so we'll make this the next level. And who knows, the right member feedback, we might share that one a bit later on. But
sorry, Chris, keep giving you more jobs to do.
Well, I enjoy it. But look, it does take time and it does take effort. And we have the reports that we can use, but sharing it more publicly and in a decipherable way, that can be hard. So we should also thank Gary, and not just thank him for doing the recordings, but he's taking time out of his trading day. I know he was watching positions when we first got on the call, and we've talked for a fair while. So please do leave in the comments below. Thanks to Gary. And also, if you do like the look of the Momentum profile, tell us, give some feedback, because we know the members have chimed in on that. So to that end, we say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
And something else, Gary invested a lot of time in are the model books, and we really do stress, go back and watch them and rewatch them, because we've done the same for model books that we've had for decades and decades of looking through the best market winners. And there's a lot to learn there, and relearn and really steer into the back of the brain and the retina. To that end, I'll leave